Welcome to week 11, Explore the Bible. We're continuing in the book of Luke. We're right here at the very end now, the last couple of chapters here in these last few weeks of May. And so excited about looking at this passage. It's kind of funny because this is a passage we're normally looking at, say, a month and a half or so ago, Easter around there. And here we are now. Of course, we've had Easter already, and now we're here in May, and we're talking about this passage because this is the end of the book as we come to the end of the Gospel of Luke. So really like this passage. There's some great statements that Jesus makes here that we need to deal with, we need to think about, and some other things there. So let's look at this. Luke 23, verses 33 to 34 says, "When they arrived at the place called the Skull, they crucified him there along with the criminals, one on the right, one on the left. Then Jesus said, 'Father, forgive them, because they do not know what they are doing.' And they divided his clothes and cast lots." One of the things that you learn as you read through the different presentations about the end of Christ's life, the cross, as we read in the different Gospels, we see that they each describe different things. They have different pieces that they pick out, different things that they want to emphasize. And Luke here picks this statement that Jesus makes from the cross to emphasize this. And you see that the evil that's going on, right? This place that's called the Skull, and they crucify him, and they've got him there with the criminals right in the middle of them, and in the midst of the evil that's happening and the darkness that is there. Jesus' statement is striking, isn't it? He looks down at from the cross to the people who are gambling for his clothing. These people that are, as we'll see, are shouting all kinds of obscenities at him and that have done horrible things to him, and he is completely and totally innocent, and he is completely able to, if he wants, call down hellfire from heaven and kill them all. Right there, he could wipe them all out, right? And yet his statement is a prayer to his Father. "Father, forgive them. Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand." I think they don't understand. They don't grasp the depth of this. They don't get what's going on here. And while they, indeed, the Jews and the Greeks, the Romans, they're all guilty of what's happening here. It's not just them, it's us too, right? We also are guilty. Our sins put Christ on the cross, and we know that he gave his life. His life wasn't taken from him, but he gave his life for us. And so this statement of the real meaning of the cross, this is what it is about. "Father, forgive them. Forgive them." This plea. And I think what bothers me most about this statement is what we see coming after it, and the response of the people as they hear these words from Jesus. And you would think there would be a movement, right? You would think there would be some kind of conviction that would take place, but they're so deep in their evil, so oppressed. As Jesus tells them in the garden, "You got your hour. This is your time. This is it." Boy, they are living it to the full. Let's see what happens there. First, we see they're dividing his clothes and gambling for it. It says, "The people stood watching, and even the leaders were scoffing. 'He saved others, let him save himself, if this is God's Messiah, the chosen one.' The soldiers also mocked him. They came offering him sour wine and said, 'If you're the king of the Jews, save yourself.' An inscription was above him, 'This is the King of the Jews.'" Remember that Pilate put that inscription there, and the Jews wanted him to change it to say, "He says he is the King of the Jews," but he says, "No, what I've written," right? And we see in the next verse, even not only we have the people, and then the leaders, and then even the Roman soldiers, but also the criminals there that are hanging with him. They're also scoffing at him, mocking him. Now we know, and we'll see this, one of them turns in that, but one is there with him. Okay, so we're all guilty here, right? You're guilty. You're on the cross, and yet you're going to make fun of the other guy, and you're going to laugh at him. And man, this is, when you think about Philippians 2, when he talks about that Jesus lowered himself, he humbled himself, he made himself obedient even to death on a cross. The humiliation that took place, right? That humiliation was that ultimate humility that Jesus showed. And here we see it, right? These people who are so weak and have so little, and have so many faults are looking at Jesus and making fun of him and laughing at him and mocking him and, telling him, you don't know who you are. You think you are. You're not that. You're not the chosen one. You're not the Messiah. Come on down. Serve us. Do what we want you to. Boy, isn't this the way we get sometimes where we want God to do what we want him to. And instead of us bowing and bending the knee to him and saying, Lord, whatever you want to do with me, that's fine. That's what they're doing, right? They're saying, look, if this is you, if this really is you, then serve us, show us, right? Perform a trick for us. But here we have now the other thief who's on the cross says, but the other answered, rebuking him. So, and we know from the other Gospels that there was a point where they were both saying this, but now this one has turned, and maybe it was some of the words that Jesus says, the Father forgive them. Maybe that turned him, but he says, the other answered, rebuking him, don't you even fear God? Since you are undergoing the same punishment, we are punished justly because we're getting back what we deserve for the things we did, but this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And he said to him, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Wow. This harshness that is pervasive, right? You sense the oppression, the evil, the anger, the bitterness. You see all of that, right? And then in the midst of that, we have this statement that Jesus makes, Father, forgive them, which doesn't seem to fit, right? And then we have this thief who is the end of his existence here on earth, right? This is it for him. And he sees things as they are. And you have this beautiful conversion that takes place right in the middle of evil. I mean, of horrendous anger, oppression, hatred, all of that. And in the middle of that, you have love. It's just an amazing scene, isn't it, to think about what that was like. How is it that God could show up even there, right? Sometimes we forget. We forget that God has not ever abandoned us, that God has not ever been limited, that God has there's never been a time when he said, that's just too dark for me. I mean, this is the darkest moment in the history of eternity right here. The crucifixion of Jesus is as dark spiritually as anything can ever be. And right there, salvation. Right there, salvation. Remember me when you come into your kingdom. He sees him. He says, look, I want you to look at some of the things that he says about Jesus. We're getting back what we deserve, right? Our punishment is just. We did this. We're guilty. But this man has done nothing wrong. He has done nothing wrong. He's the same testimony that Pilate had. Okay? He says he has done nothing wrong. This recognition that Jesus does not deserve this. He has done nothing wrong. This is what Paul says in Corinthians when he says this man who knew no sin. He knew no sin. He'd never sinned. He became sin for us. And he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. You see this recognition here that Jesus is going to have a kingdom, and he's saying, Lord, I want to be a part of that. He didn't know when it's going to be. He didn't know how it's going to happen. He didn't know anything, but you're the king. You're going to have a kingdom. You are indeed the king of the Jews. You're the king of all eternity. He recognizes it. And he said, Jesus' response to him, I tell you this, today you will be with me in paradise. Today, this day. Okay? What a promise that is, right? And that helps us understand when Paul says to be absent from the bodies, to be present with the Lord. When you die, you go immediately. If you're a believer, you go immediately into the presence of Christ. Immediately, you're in the presence of God. Immediately, it happens. That's what his promise is to this man, right? Immediately, you're going to go. Today, you're going to be with me in paradise. That's where you're going to be. What a great promise. I love this. Nothing else had to happen. He didn't have to get baptized. He didn't have to join a church. He didn't have to do anything else. All he had to do was say, I believe Jesus is the only way. I believe that he is indeed the king. I mean, this is as simple a statement of faith as you can have, and this man gets saved. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. Hey, I hope you enjoy the study this week as you go through and just kind of dive into, maybe it'll be different to dive into the crucifixion when we're not around the Easter season, right? And remember that we celebrate that all year round, right? Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. We hit 300. We got to 300. We're looking now. Let's go to 400. We're just going to keep climbing our way up, right? But I appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribe to the channel, like, comment, all of that kind of stuff. And we'll see you next week. Thanks. God bless.